Have you ever wondered if this massive trend of manifestation is, well, just a modern myth? Or could it actually be grounded in hard biological reality? Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to put the whole concept of manifestation right under the microscope. We're stripping away all the hype and we're looking directly at the data.
Can simply thinking about something actually make it happen? I know, it's a seriously bold claim. But before you write it off as pure fantasy or, accept it as undeniable truth, stick with me here. The evidence we're about to explore reveals that the answer is way more fascinating than a simple yes or no. Section 1. The magic of manifestation. So to really understand the science, we first got to look at the cultural phenomenon itself, right? I mean, for decades, this idea has completely captured the imagination of millions, mostly through the New Thought movement and mega-hit books like The Secret. And at the very heart of this cultural wave is the law of attraction, this philosophy that like attracts like. The core spiritual premise here is that we actually co-create our reality. The diehard proponents argue that by vividly visualizing your goals and truly feeling the emotions of success as if they're already yours, you're essentially sending out this powerful cosmic signal. The idea is that the universe actually responds to that specific frequency, drawing those experiences right back into your life.
Okay, let's dive into this comparison. We essentially have two very distinct ways to view this whole phenomenon. On one side, we have the spiritual view. This one speaks the language of vibrations, universal energy, and mystical alignment. But on the flip side, we have the psychological view. This side looks at the exact same results, but explains them through mindset, focused attention, and active agency. Now, both of these perspectives absolutely agree that your thoughts shape your life, but they fundamentally disagree on the nuts and bolts of how it actually happens.
Section 2. The skeptic's perspective. Now, science demands evidence, right? And when researchers apply the scientific method to the spiritual claims of manifestation, well, they raise some pretty major red flags. Let's look at these valid criticisms neutrally. First off, psychologists point out a glaring lack of empirical evidence that thoughts alone, without any actual physical action, can just magnetically alter physical reality. Plus, they strongly warn against what they call magical thinking, that dangerous trap of believing you can simply wish away your problems. And honestly, this can lead to some really harmful victim blaming. Think about it. If someone falls ill or faces a terrible tragedy, the extreme interpretation of the law of attraction implies they somehow attracted it with negative thoughts. Critics rightfully argue that this completely ignores very real external, systemic, and environmental factors. Skeptics also point to a highly documented cognitive glitch in our brains known as confirmation bias. And this brilliantly explains why manifestation often seems to work flawlessly. Imagine you visualize getting a free cup of coffee, and hey, later that day, someone buys you one. You remember it as this incredible, magical success. But your brain conveniently ignores the 98 other times you visualized something and absolutely nothing happened. You know how it is, we just remember the hits and totally forget the misses. Section 3. The brain's gatekeeper. So, while skeptics can pretty easily debunk the idea of thoughts magically shifting the universe, modern neurobiology shows us that our thoughts absolutely shift our biology. Just look at these staggering numbers, 11 million to 50. Right this very second, your senses are receiving up to 11 million bits of information. 11 million. But your conscious mind, it can only process about 50 bits per second. If your brain actually tried to process everything coming at you, you'd be instantly paralyzed by sensory overload. So just to survive the day, your brain requires a massive biological filtering system. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the structure right down there in the brainstem, the mesencephalic reticular activating system, or just RAS for short. The RAS is essentially your brain's ultimate gatekeeper. It acts like a bouncer for your conscious mind, mercilessly filtering out millions of bits of irrelevant noise and only letting through the information that it deems absolutely crucial to your survival or to your goals. We actually experience this filter every single day through what we call the red Tesla effect. Imagine you decide you really want to buy a red Tesla. Suddenly you step outside and you see them literally everywhere. At the grocery store, on the highway, in the background of commercials. So did the universe magically drop thousands of red Teslas into your town overnight? No way. They were always there. But by deciding you wanted one, you programmed your RAS to stop ignoring them. Your focus quite literally altered your physical perception of reality. Section 4. The self-fulfilling prophecy. So the crucial point is that this altered perception doesn't just change what we see, it completely dictates how we behave.
The big psychological phenomenon here is the self-fulfilling prophecy. This happens when your belief about a situation directly changes your behavior to make that exact outcome inevitable. Think about it. When you confidently expect success, your posture automatically changes. You speak with more authority. You take more risks. You naturally shift your actions to make that success a reality. And this brilliantly illustrates the dark side of that exact same coin. Take a look at this public speaking anxiety loop. Step 1, you have a negative expectation, meaning you firmly believe you're going to fail. Step 2, that belief actually triggers your nervous system, creating real physical symptoms like a racing heart or shaking hands. Step 3, those physical symptoms distract you, leading to an actual poor performance. And finally, step 4, your failure reinforces your initial fear. You didn't fail because you lacked the skill, you failed because your belief trapped you in a biological cycle. But what happens when we flip the script and use this biological loop for positive outcomes? Well, a massive 24-year meta-analysis in sports psychology confirms a measurable, significant positive effect, showing that mental practice alone actually enhances physical performance. By vividly visualizing an action in your working memory without moving a single muscle, you are literally firing the motor pathways in your brain, rehearsing and improving your physical capabilities. Your thoughts are quite literally prepping your physical body for success. Section 5. Rewiring your reality. When we tie all of this biology and psychology together, we move past the mystical stuff and get right into the practical. Let's see how this builds on an absolutely core biological concept: neuroplasticity. Now, for a long time, scientists thought the adult brain was fixed, done growing. We now know that is completely false. Your brain actually physically reorganizes its structure, growing new neural connections in response to focused attention. Your sustained thoughts literally alter the hardware of your brain, converting temporary focus into lasting physical traits. So, unlike that anxiety doom loop we saw earlier, we can actually engineer a positive cycle. We call this the learned manifestation flywheel. It starts with belief, which, as we know, programs your RAS. This leads to directed attention, where your brain suddenly starts spotting new opportunities. Then you capitalize on this with small atomic actions. Those actions produce real evidence of success out there in the real world, which in turn feeds right back and strengthens your original belief. It's this incredible compounding loop of active agency rather than just passively waiting around. So how do you actually put this into practice? Well, you have to deliberately program your RAS. First, define concrete, specific targets, because vague wishes just do not compute in the brain. Second, visualize the outcome vividly to really engage those motor and emotional pathways. Third, consistently reframe negative thoughts so you avoid those self-fulfilling prophecies of failure. Fourth, take aligned physical action. And finally, repeat this daily. Myelination, which is the biological strengthening of these neural pathways, requires consistent daily repetition. When you really pull back the curtain on the law of attraction, you don't find a universe just handing out favors based on vibrations. Instead, you find a highly sophisticated neurobiological machine sitting right inside your skull, just waiting for your instructions. When you perfectly align your focus, your beliefs, and your actions, you weren't casting a spell. You are actively rewiring the physical structure of your brain to perceive and then seize the reality you want. Maybe manifestation isn't magic. Maybe it's something even more powerful.